Thank you once again, everyone, for joining. People will just join as they come. For those of you who are not yet familiar with Build Up Labs, hi there. I'm Raquel. I'm the Startup Happiness Officer at Build Up Labs, and we are a startup studio and incubator. This means that we've been creating and launching our own businesses since 2014, and since last year that we've also started supporting other startups through our incubation program. So that being said, we are an incubator created by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, providing mentorship, access to our network of mentors, partners, investors, and of course to our great community of founders. We also organize events like the one we're having today and many others, but most of them are of course exclusive to our founders. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Julia is joining us directly from Ukraine and is an expert in PR, of course. She helps local Ukrainian tech startups get global coverage, serving as the mentor and author of the global PR training course. Currently, she's the head of PR at MacPaw, where she keeps the company in the spotlight of Western media, such as CNBC, TechCrunch, VentureBeat, the list goes on. Of course, she's also a mentor in our incubator, so our startups that are here joining, now you know. Julia is a mentor and she's available to help you out with everything related to PR. So Julia, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to share your knowledge with us, of course. So you can just start whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm unmuted. Hi, Raquel. Thank you for the warm introduction, and I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. So I will start my presentation. I tried my best to pack all the knowledge into 1 hour presentation. So feel free to be very attentive to absorb the knowledge I will share and ask questions after the presentation. So here we go. I'm sharing my screen. Do you see it? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So PR for startups, first steps to take and what mistakes to avoid. So I will give you some theoretical background, what PR is, how it is better to work with it, when to start, and what mistakes to avoid. This is me. You can recognize me. I'm real. I'm not like, a virtual influencer or like robot. So I exist and I lead PR in a software development company, MacPaw. We are based in Ukraine, but our user base exceeds 30 million users all over the world. So as Raquel already mentioned, my story showed up in a number of well-recognized and known media outlets like the Entrepreneur, Mashable, VentureBeat, and etc. I also teach PR and mentor different startups, those who aim for global recognition. First of all, what comes to your mind when you hear PR? So feel free to send your ideas. So PR, what is for you? Chats, let me check it. Oh my God, it's frozen. Raquel, can you read the answers?
Yes, so I wrote getting covered in the news. We wrote journalists. We have media stories, brand awareness.
Wow, I love that. But please pay attention to the image I'm sharing. So what people think PR does? Mostly media relations. But what in fact PR is responsible for is a number of different activities. So you can see it from that wheel that event planning is a part of PR, crisis communication, PR, community relations, PR, reputation management, PR. So the first takeaway from this lecture is that PR is not solely media relations. So when you see the term public relations, it stands for 2 words, public and relations. So public relation experts are responsible for building relations with different publics. What is public? Public is somehow similar to target audience in marketing, but it's a bit wider. For example, investors, they can be a part of your public, I mean, of your company core public. Your future employees, you don't sell your product to them directly, so they cannot be your customers, but they can be your publics as well, as your business should communicate them as well. Governmental relations can be a part of public relations, making government essential public for your business. So what is public relation? I really love this term, that's this definition by Public Relations Society of America. Public relations is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations, businesses, and their publics. So to sum it up, don't regard public relations as media relations only, and keep in mind that key audiences your business is communicating to is covered by different publics. So it's not only about your customers, but the publics or stakeholders which your business can be dependent on. So this will incorporates the key functions of media of public relations. But as you may see that media relations is a part of public relations. So probably I will cover media relations more than the rest of the wheel parts. But keep in mind that, yeah, like public relations is responsible for the rest of this wheel as well. So PR tasks, what are they? Positioning, how your product, startup, your service is perceived. That's a part of public relations. Reputation management, what kind of feedback is available online, what people search, what people see about your product, your founders, that's also part of PR. Media relations, that's obvious. Communication with customers and other stakeholders. Let's say you are hunting new people, you are in search of best talents. That's one of the audiences, public stakeholders that you need to communicate with, your future employees. Encouraging advocacy, you know, like when people fall in love with your products, they start doing it for free, promoting, recommending, and that word of mouth also works. That's actually PR that can generate that buzz and advocacy. And buzz creation, when we talk about some newsworthy event, it can be started by your PR team or PR professional in the team. Mistakes in PR. So everything that I listed before with the negative attribution, like positioning is the task of PR, mistake is wrong positioning. Reputation management, but the mistake is careless reputation management, when you don't care what people say about you in the internet. And the rest, according to this list. But I would also add here is that startups start thinking about PR too late. When I'm asked when it's better to start working on PR, I say it's already too late. Start it immediately. What I mean by saying that is that you should already know the key stakeholders, the key publics you need to communicate to already. You need to understand that in 2 months, in a year, you will need desperately coverage on TechCrunch or in any media outlet that seems to be relevant to your business. So start working on media lists already. Start following the people that are influential in your business already. Start following journalists, reporters that cover your bits already. So like, don't forget that every step you take in building your business is already somehow related to PR, to that reputation that you are building. As you are listening to this lecture, so you won't be late with PR, so everything will be in time. So checklist for online PR. I ask you not to make notes right now. Probably it's better to like pay your attention to the slide, and after that, I will send over this presentation to Raquel and she will be happy to share it with you. So you will have all the stuff at your hand. So define your audience. That's what I already covered. It shouldn't be just your customer. It's much wider, yeah, like investors, business partners, future employees. These are all publics that you're gonna build relations with as business. Clarify your objectives. Sometimes people think that an article in Forbes will bring them tons of traffic and sales. If this is your aim, you should probably not consider Forbes. I know one colleague of mine, she was hired by the company that developed some smart engines for agricultural, let's put it, machines. And she said that it was impossible to get any coverage in Forbes because the product is too niche. It's for agricultural businesses. It was not widely covered by Forbes. What they did, they found forums where representatives of those businesses were like browsing for news, for asking some tips, and they just put one post about the availability of those engines, and it actually sold them, a big bulk of them. And Forbes wouldn't even give them that volume of sales because Forbes is more about image recognition awareness. But at that point, they needed sales more than recognition. So based on your objectives, you will need to choose the way you will communicate and actually the channels you will use for communicating. Identifying channels. So the channels can be of different type, not only media channels, not only TechCrunch, VentureBeat, and the rest. I sometimes said as an example, my own case, when we launch a new version of Clean My Mac, it's an app that our company develops, then the news is usually covered by a number of media outlets. The thing is that the Spanish website gives us much more sales than TechCrunch, but the logo of that Spanish, very local, very niche website says nothing when it is placed on the website for international audience. So like it's Apple's-Sfera, it's well-recognized media, but only among Spanish customers. As for the global community, people know TechCrunch. That's why TechCrunch doesn't sell for us, but it gives us more authority when its logo is placed on the page with like press coverage clippings. Channels might be different. Sometimes you need to go just to cover your story in some curated newsletter, not wasting your time on big outlets. Or you can go and find your audience in social media. Everything depends on your goal. Establish timeline and budget. It's very crucial to know how much you're gonna spend because PR is supposed to be free channel when you don't pay for publications. I mean, you don't pay media for that, but in fact, you hire an agency or you hire a PR expert, you hire a designer or like a video maker. That's why you need to understand how much time, how much money you need for that, and timeline, because PR starts much ahead of the campaign. You need preparation, execution, and then analysis. Decide on who's responsible. On the day when some new product is launched, the office looks like disaster. Everybody is so busy because developers start fixing bugs. Support team is responsible for taking care of requests of users. That's why you need to understand who is responsible to monitor all the mentions, all the incoming requests, and that's essential. Sometimes people forget about it. Craft stories and pitch them to media. So when PR comes in, when it can give you additional value for your business. For example, when you're looking for funding or investment, awareness of your startup gives you more chances to get on the radar for your future investors. Attracting the best talent. It's much easier to hire best talents when your brand of your startup, of your business is well recognized among the people you are looking for. Growing a user and customer base, that's obvious. When the product is well known, recommended, then you have a wave of new customers. And scaling the business. For example, when businesses come to new regions, it makes total sense to do some PR over its expansion. Let's say you're entering DACH region, German-speaking market. So it does make sense to involve more channels which are German-speaking, just to raise that awareness about the key audience you're gonna sell your product to. Build a solid online presence. So I will give you a brief task. Just you can use either your desktop search or like your mobile phones. What you do, just go to Google and type in the name of your company and look through the pictures, look through the different tabs of Google. What's covered in news, what's given in images, and what's given in just search. So just go ahead. We have like tabs, all images, videos, news. So try different tabs with the name of your business and just have a chance to see what people see when they look for your business name. After you practice it, sometimes people even find outdated pictures of the offices or like some outdated information. So try to put your name in Google. So what do you see when typing in your name? So probably the results you see will make you happy, or vice versa, will make you disappointed at what you see. I will not reveal a mystery, but any new reporter, a journalist that hears about the company for the first time will do exactly the same. They will go to Google and Google the name. So try different combinations when you have time, like your name, different spellings. For example, for our region, it makes sense to look for Google results in Cyrillics and in with Latin letters. Then try your name, and in case you work in a startup with a different founder, ask their names as well. Try their names as well. So before you ever start talking to journalists or talking to your key audiences, key publics, what you should check: website, whether it's searchable, whether Google gives your website in the results on the first page. Then social channels, how approachable you are. It does make sense for people to give them more like faster way of connecting with you. So it's actually the way how you communicate as well. So I recommend indicating Twitter or LinkedIn for personalities, yeah, for founders, because sometimes people browse for their names as well. And when the person exists on LinkedIn, on Twitter, it means that that person really exists and it's approachable in case someone needs to set up an interview, ask for comments, or any other case that may happen. What's also doable, such websites like Crunchbase can feature your company, because if your company is not present in Google, you don't exist. That's why start with Crunchbase. Crunchbase is free of charge. You can set up your account there, and at least that mention will be as one of the results in Google. AngelList the same. If you have products, I mean, even software products, you can go to Product Hunt and hunt it there. And what is good, what I really love about Product Hunt, because people say, Product Hunt has spoiled, it's not like it used to be, not so much traffic, not so many sales, but it's well indexed. So when you look for the product name or the startup, so it can be on the first page as well, saying that, yeah, like you already have some history. This is a number of B2B online catalogs that feature different services. That can also be a thing for your business, where you can just enlist your product, and it will be not like product, but some, app, service, whatever. Beta list, it's the service where you can launch betas. I don't know like the specifics of your business, of your startups, but if it's something that can be tested with beta, sometimes it's a part of go-to-market strategy. When you place your product on beta list first, make some awareness around it, fix the bugs, and then you launch the product per se, like on Product Hunt. Trustpilot, that's a review website that also is well indexed. So it gives rates when the product is already available, and people can either complain or praise your service, your product. And Trustpilot also can give you the position on the first page. Wikipedia, so it's also a source that is well indexed in Google, but the trend is that it's getting more and more complicated to be on Wikipedia, because the requirements are getting more strict. But if it is well written in neutral tone, it can also give you additional visibility. So what's next? This is a slide from some research that will prove that I am right. So where the media look when researching an organization? You see that 89% look in Google. So that's why I asked you to do that exercise, yeah, and check what search results are available in Google. Number 2, organization's corporate site. You should double check it as well, how it looks, whether it's informative, whether it's obvious what you sell, what you make. And number 3, organization's online newsroom. But for startups, when you need to prioritize whether to build a product or to build an online newsroom, I always advise at least to have contact details that media representatives can use to contact you quickly, and where you will be available and responsive. Because when you have, some LinkedIn account on your website, but the last update was 2 years ago when you just started it and forgot about it, it won't work. If you place there a Facebook link, make sure that someone is checking those requests regularly and it works. So the rest of the list you will study later when you have that presentation. That's already the list that we covered, but here I highlighted build relations because PR is all about building relations. Some tips on how to build them. This is a screenshot from Twitter. The most working, the most preferable social media when dealing with reporters. So don't try to make friends with them on Facebook, especially with American ones, because they are very hostile to Facebook, saying that it's more for friendly conversations, not like business ones. Only if the person agrees to give you their Facebook accounts, that will work. But Twitter is the most neutral. I recommend everybody starting with Twitter. So you have your own account and you start browsing for relevant contacts to build relations with. So this is an example of the reporter. In their bio, reporters give excessive information about them. So let's just review what we see here in the bio of Dave Lee. Sorry, Dave, I don't know you personally, but your bio is so well written. So I set it as an example. So he is based in San Francisco. His bio says San Francisco correspondent at Financial Times. So you see that the person is employed by Financial Times and based in San Francisco. When you are around in San Francisco, you can give him a message saying, hey, Dave, how about having coffee? So coffee is the most neutral excuse to meet a journalist. Don't offer them lunch or anything because it can be regarded as bribe, but coffee is okay. For American reporters, that works. Pay attention to the topics. They call it beats. Like they ask PR people, know my beats, meaning that he has a core of topics that he works with. So if your startup is not in this niche, go and look for another day. This one covers Amazon, e-commerce, Uber, Airbnb. What it means, if you have some startup in e-commerce, that might work. If not, that's not the most relevant reporter to you. What goes next? DMs open. It means that a reporter is likely to check his messages here on Twitter. Some people say that I prefer emails, like here, tips. Tips is like news packs you can send him over, and he gives his personal email. And then he says DMs open. So if his email is given, you'd better send him the tip to his email, but in DM, you just pin him saying, hey, Dave, I send you a pitch to your email. Please check your inbox. And Signal. Signal is a secure messenger that American journalists trust. And sometimes they run secret conversations on Signal. It's amazing, but his phone number is given here. That's why you can take a chance and try to contact Dave through Signal. This is another request from Yessi. She's not employed by the Next Web anymore, but I really love to show you how Twitter works for building relations with journalists. So she posted a tweet, keen to connect with anyone in European tech. Oh my gosh, that's a blessing. She is looking for you guys. Please follow me, obviously, of course, like it's a kind of business etiquette to pitch a person if only you follow them. And feel free to email me. She gives the her contact details, her email. Yes, I'm aware this means my inbox will blow up, but it's worth it. So she was a European reporter that covered European tech. it's obvious that you need to follow all her publications, paying attention to what she usually covers. But unfortunately, she left. That's another example how descriptive the bio can be. That's a reporter that specializes in wealth. So she's a wealth reporter in Forbes. She gives her contact email, and you see that the last story she covered was the divorce of the Gates. What it means that every person has its own beats, and you need to find exactly those reporters that cover your topics, the topics of your business. What else is right to do? So use search engine tools to look for the media with the biggest traffic. So this is a list of them when you can check the traffic, the ranking, and don't just rely on your intuition. For example, there are cases when a founder is really passionate about some media, and they read it and they say, yeah, we should be there. But it doesn't mean that your audience is there. So you'd better rely on data, on numbers, and not on someone's opinion. Media search. When you work on big lists of media, some services may come in hand, but honestly, they are not free of charge. That's why I always recommend building your own database of relevant reporters, spending more time but less money on it. The thing is that this database, they're not able to catch up with all the changes, because sometimes the reporter announces on Twitter that I'm quitting this position and I'm joining another media. And these media databases can come too late with updating of the information. So I would rather build my own list, not trust in these ones, but I know that PR agencies use it a lot because it saves time. Contact details, again, like these are numbers these are different products, services that may help you to find reporters' email addresses, because they prefer email communication more than anything. What you should do, use search engine tools just to know the volume of traffic, the keywords that are relevant to your business. Use them to evaluate the media or to evaluate the channel. Then check social network analytics. For example, if the media or the person has huge followership, just go and check like whether people interact with them, whether they comment, whether they like, whether they retweet, reshare. So like rely on metrics. Study popular types of content. That's the mistake that startups usually make. They think that everybody is interested in their news. Sometimes some media do only not like news coverage, but mostly interviews or feature stories, or someone counts or that the media will review their product, but they never do reviews. They do mostly news. That's a different story. Or for example, there is a media about games and you are developing a new game. So they will do review, but they will never interview your founder because they don't just have that type of content. Always pay attention to it. What you shouldn't do, buy media or press lists. The thing is, I remember even on Product Hunt or somewhere on Quora, some smart guy sold his media list because yeah, it's very intimidating to build your own press list, and sometimes you can be seduced to buy it ready. But don't do that, because they may not be relevant to your business. They may not be actual because like they can be outdated. Everything that should be done in PR should be verified and checked. Target randomly. If you see like, the person says tech reporter, that doesn't mean that they cover every tech in the world. So pay attention to the niche and core expertise. If it's not stated in their bio profile, it can be stated on the website where their editorial team is described, or their late articles may also show the key interests of the journalist. And never send irrelevant pictures. There is a term like spray and pray approach. When you spray your word, or spray your story, and just pray that they will like pick it. It won't happen. So try to customize your pitch to the needs of a reporter. Before you start talking, before you start doing anything in PR, I mean proactively, start with listening. Before you talk, you'd better listen. So what you can listen with? Google Alerts, that's a free service that you can set up with your keywords, that the keywords for your business. If you have no keywords ready, I mean, like your product is still under development, you can set up keywords for your competitors or for the industry, just to understand what is what is present on the market, like what news exists in the market, like who covers them, who covers your competitors, what is happening. Then inside.com, it's a service where you can subscribe for curated newsletters on different topics. It means that you just pick the topic you are interested in, for example, crypto, and they have different topics, and you see that this is crypto newsletter, you just subscribe to it, and you get all the latest news on this topic inbox. So it's like curated content, so you don't need to browse for it yourself. Substack have different authors on different topics. So before you start talking to them, start listening to them, absorbing what's going on, what's happening, how you can react to it. And then there is a list of tools for social media monitoring, when you can monitor social media. That's an example of inside newsletters. You see inside venture capital. If you work for venture capital or you are trying to raise money, you can follow investors in their world, like what they discuss, what they cover. So they even have a newsletter inside wine for startups in wine industry. So go and check it. It's inside.com. It's very useful. Media requests. So when you start working with media, I would recommend you two services. They are free. It's HARO, which is an abbreviation of help a reporter out. This is also a hashtag in Twitter. Sometimes journalists just put a tweet saying, I'm looking for a person who can describe me something, or I'm looking for a story about this and this, and they can place a hashtag HARO. But it is also a free service that you can just monitor every day when they say the same, but in inbox and quote it. It's just of the same kind service that usually plays requests for some comments, some expertise. So it can also help you build first relations. This is an example how I worked with HARO. Probably you recognize me. If you don't, this is me. And I inspired our designers to put illustration with me on the book that we created. We created a book for switchers from Windows to Macs, like how it is easily to transfer your habits from Windows to Mac ones. And the thing is that we did our best to promote the book, but honestly, it was not very newsworthy. It was just a part of our funnel. So the people got interested in the book, they left emails, and then they were upsold the service. And it was meh for like news in the media. But overall, we got some coverage, and the next day we saw a hard request where a journalist was looking for new books that were published and that were not, they should be nonfiction. And we pitched them our book, and here we go, Reader's Digest, which has over 10 million readers, featured the story and put our book into the story. What else? Like, don't ignore other modern channels of communication. They shouldn't be solely media, or like we don't read paper newspapers anymore. That's why media evolve. And I would also recommend you paying attention to the podcasts in your niche, yeah, like in your industry. There are tons of them. What tools I recommend you are Listen Notes. That's a very easy search engine for podcasts. You just browse with keywords on it, like Listen Notes, and you can browse for the content that is relevant to your business. The new one is Spot Seeker. It's the tool I discovered probably 3 days ago. That's why I'm sharing with you right now. It promises that it can automate search for the relevant podcasts, like finding contact details, even like generating some messages. So I only read the description. I didn't test it out myself, but if you had more time, probably you can play with it around. What you should do: make a detailed plan, how everything would evolve, how you would choose different channels. When you talk to media, highlight newsworthy product features. So when you have like an existing product and it's not disrupting anything, so it will never end up as a story. Try to focus on newsworthy features. Add localizations. For example, when you like put a product, when you launch a product on a new market, try to localize your pitch as well. You can like get additional coverage on it. For example, one of the products were translated into French, and the product already existed, nothing new happened, but I put a French flag in the subject line, and I said salut, setup is French speaking right now. And you know, it worked. You know what? It worked. French reporters were flattered that the product is already French speaking, and they gave us additional coverage and additional traffic just for the sake of some patriotism. Don't do launch products on Christmas, Easter, Black Friday, when you know people either are on vacation or the information load is too heavy, because it will be lost. Don't overlap product launches with big events. For example, when CES is happening in Las Vegas, it's a big consumer electronics show. You will die pitching media, but they will not respond to you because they are busy with CES announcements. I heard a tip from an American reporter saying that February is the most desired part of the year for pitching because nothing serious is happening. But you can try different approach and different timing, but not Christmas time, that's for sure. And don't outreach on the launch day because it's too late. When you announce investment just on the day of announcement, there is so low chance that the story will be published. If not, that's 1 billion investment. Otherwise, you should start preparation beforehand, like pitching those stories to media before, saying that we are working on this fund. It will be announced soon. Please be aware of it. And bonus for you, it's a new podcast, relatively new. I am a big fan of it. Actually, they even sent me their swag, their, stickers and some more fun, because I'm very loyal to them. It's a podcast, Coffee with a Journalist. When some reporters are invited to the podcast, and the host asks them questions, how they work with their inbox, how they prioritize them, what stories they pick. And the podcast and their responses actually allow you to get inside their brain and understand how it works. Because the way they work with emails sometimes is like eye-opening. For example, they look for keywords. That's why I recommend, when working on a pitch, you should include keywords in the subject line, the keywords which are related to your product, not just the name of it, which is unknown to people who read it, but when you solve some problem, just mention the keywords, and somehow it can work. Like, they can browse for those keywords and get back to you when they need information on that topic. And one pitch is also a part of this idea. Coffee with the Journalist is just the name of the podcast, but one pitch is they have a number of channels. They have their own blog, they have Twitter account, they have Instagram account, and they give very chunk by content, very brief, very short, on PR, on dealing with media. So I recommend it very much. This is a tweet that I want to sum up my presentation with. There will be a number of them, but they are told by people from media. Pro tip for startup: focus on customer reaction to your product, less on investor and press reaction to your pitch. So product is still the focus. TechCrunch don't pay the rent. So it's the customer who pays you. It's the customer who will influence your product. Don't pay too much attention. Don't spend too much effort, because PR is tough. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's very continuous and regular investment of your time and money and your energy. That's why product comes first, startup comes first. When it's working, then you might think about the rest of it. Meanwhile, working on the infrastructure for it, for knowing the right people, for getting in touch with them. But remember that reaction to your product is more important than the reaction of the press to it. Another quote is by Mike Butcher. It's editor-at-large of TechCrunch. And I quote him all the time because I took this picture myself when he was giving a talk in Kiev. He said that just being a startup doesn't make you news, and reporters are looking for news. They are not looking for another startup. So when you pitch the story, always check it whether it has some newsworthiness in it. And this is a quote by a Forbes journalist. He said that every week, someone asks him a question how to get in Forbes. He said, do something newsworthy. That's already that Mike Butcher said. Find, create interesting data. Yeah, journalists love data. If you have data that proves your idea, the startup concept, go and share it. Get incredible traction. Yeah, they will be surprised. Start a visible movement. Get remarkable people on board. Do you remember there was a case with Prince Charles, who got on board of the well-known meditation app? Tons of media wrote about it. Do something truly unique. be awesome, be persistent, connect with journalists, pitch smart, then hope and pray. So unfortunately, you can't just follow this algorithm and be sure that it will happen. There are so many dependencies on the mood of the reporter, on the industry situation. For example, when Trump was elected as the reporter, all the media just stopped their agenda. They covered only the elections. So I was so, merciful for those startups that were releasing something on that day, because like the whole world died for media unless it was something related to the elections. So it's not like marketing when you invest some certain amount of money and you expect to get something at the end. But when it works, you will just get mad about these results and the coverage you get and the traction you see and the love that your publics will show. So it's worth trying for sure, but don't think that it will be very easy and, like overnight. Thank you. This is actually my Twitter handle, so feel free to follow me. I mostly tweet in English and about PR because that's my not just profession, but my passion as well. And I'm ready to answer questions.